The Public Works Commission is conducting this meeting on December 11th, 2025 at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Zoom platform and in person. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on the town's website. I, Andrea Solomon, hereby call this meeting to order. First thing we're going to do is review and approve minutes from our November 12th meeting. Does anyone have questions or corrections?
I just had one comment. So in D3 in the second paragraph, it talks about the snow and ice budget. So it just says, I thought in the meeting we actually said how much it goes over the budget. I don't remember. Anyway, it doesn't say it in here. Do you remember?
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just checking on that.
Yeah.
There's more participants than usual, so. The meeting should be done soon. Okay, all right, thanks.
So my only note is if we know the number, it'd be good to put it in. If you don't, you don't. But
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
No, there's a, in the fourth paragraph there's a yellow splot. And writing after 15,000, and we have a little yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
15,000 yellow per land.
You want that taken out? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
It's gonna show up in the next one.
that I had the yellow. No, we don't have to put that in. That's just.
Okay, so
Weird.
does someone want a motion to approve these minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Calendar, should we review our calendar for our very busy?
Yeah, it's a little
Winter.
bit leaner just to be sort of adapt to some of the evolving town meeting, activities. I think, we generally have, routine things that would.
I'm gonna stay until.
Linda, if you could mute yourself, if everybody's muted.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, we'll populate, based on some of the activities with town meeting, but really, come January, February is when the articles are all being sort of developed for town meeting. At this point, there's nothing particularly unusual. I will note that coming up, we did get the select board to sign on to the petition for the Darton Street improvement. So that will be kind of one that's a little bit unusual, but other than that, nothing that, to speak of.
Okay,
Is this where we will see the text of the articles we will propose, or?
Yes, it's the first is you get the text of the articles and that gives people an understanding of what they are. And then we work on the motions, which are really what is being sort of defined for the actual action at town meeting.
Okay.
So the items are due, I think, by January 23rd. So you're not proposing any on your own, other than the Darden Street.
That's right, and we will present those at the
Yeah.
January meeting, so you can see the draft of what we'll be submitting.
Okay.
okay. Moving on to public comments. So we'll take public comments. They're going to be limited to 15 minutes in total with no more than 2 minutes allocated to any one speaker. The commission also welcomes written comments at any time. If you are recognized, please state your name and any relevant affiliations. These comments at this time should just be about subjects that are not on our agenda. Is there anyone with a hand raised
Don't see any hand raised.
in the room? No?
No?
Okay.
No?
All right, so we'll go on to commissioners' comments, and I think Sven might have an update from the land use working group.
Yeah, I have two things. One is a short update on the land use working group. Another one is more an experience as a commissioner with our solid waste recycling thing. So it was Friday after Thanksgiving, and I was the only stop they missed to pick up our trash on the Friday after Thanksgiving, and I realized everything was closed. Everyone had a day off, and I didn't want to call up Alan. So what I learned is,
Because you wanted something done.
so I said, okay, what can I do without knowing Alan? So I actually did the chatbot on waste management. Our subcontractor chatted with the chat box and told them they missed to pick up. And they clarified the next morning at 7 a.m. they picked up the thing on Saturday.
Oh, that's a nice.
So
Good.
I was just thinking it's because there was nothing on our webpage saying
Yeah.
what you do when your
Yeah,
trash
miss
can
or
was
something, yeah.
not picked up.
Uh-huh.
If there should be at least something there,
Yeah.
but knowing that waste management just did that, perhaps we can link them directly to waste management. And give this as a tip.
All right, well, we're duly noted.
Good
Yeah.
news.
So I was super happy. I did not, other thing
And
is,
it's not that we want to treat our community members any different than the rest of the
No, no,
community. That's
no.
not the intent.
yeah. But everyone was had the day off, and after Thanksgiving, you don't want to make it.
Yeah,
fast
yeah.
Anyway, so, on land use working group, this thing is just firing on all cylinders. Long list of things, still collecting a lot of information from the town. I know it is, we are also heavily supported by Russ and Alan on many of the different things that are needed to understand where are the different buildings and what might be possible and might not be possible, scenario planning and so on. The goal of the land use working group is to have a short list of options in towards the end of January, also towards the select board, to have at least it narrowed down. The short list of options are in three categories. One is where to place public works campus. One is what to do with fire and police buildings, and the third one is consolidation of municipal offices. Right now, the town is 130 employees, is across 18 buildings. So you can imagine how much that is on average per building. That these are the main areas. I think we will have their situation where we have to narrow down the options with incomplete information. There will be phase two, where there's more time to dig more, but some of the options are, it's already coming out where things might fall. Yeah. So again, thank you for Alan and Russ and everyone in the team. Is Russ here?
Yeah, Russ is here, yeah, in the back there.
But he's hiding.
Right.
I have my reading glasses. I know.
He's in the safety yellow. I think you can see.
Yeah, you can see him.
So, a lot, we are asking a lot of the town on information. But I think it's work and time well spent.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question? Did we ever get the final report of what to do with Warner's Pond?
That's a complete different thing.
I know, but it's another committee.
No, that's gone, that's done. That
Yeah.
was
What was the
in
final
summer.
decision?
The majority decided that it is just status quo, kicking the can down the road.
Okay. Great, and now I have a question for you, Tara. Is there another Saturday session?
Oh, effective governance training is this Saturday.
This Saturday at
Starts at
9?
9 to like 11
Okay.
at the townhouse. Yes,
Thank you.
anyone who wants to come, it's very interesting stuff. Okay, so any other comments by commissioners? Nope, all right, so we're moving on to D3, the CCHS amenities building appeal. And I think, is it Bob and Kyle? I don't know if you want to come up and
That or-
just to answer the questions we had. I'm gonna go through a little timeline because I've heard some interesting narratives at other meetings, and I just want to make sure everyone knows how this whole process works for everybody. So when the schools applied for their sewer connection, they had to bring that application to the Board of Health first. The Director of Public Health, and they used Title V to determine the flow rate. That flow rate, that Title V is a tool that the Board of Health uses to establish the flow rate from this bathroom building. And they use this tool for everybody who comes for a sewer connection. And so that is, again, okay, that's established by the by public health, by the Board of Health, and then that flow rate is sent over to water and sewer which is part of the Concord Public Works. And they use that flow rate to determine whether or not it's going to, the effect on the capacity. I'm sorry. I wrote this up. Okay. So it requires the rates to be set according to the max capacity of a building. Then in this case, the max capacity of the seats filled in that stadium on the busiest day when every seat is filled may not be the actual flow rate. So that rate is set by Board of Health. Then they bring it to the Water and Sewer Commission, Water and Sewer Department. Then that Water and Sewer Department determines if that can be administratively approved or if it has to be appealed. So because that rate was over 1,000 gallons per day, it was actually over 5,000 gallons per day, it has to be administratively denied. So that just everyone would have that same denial no matter who you were. And then the remedy for that is to come to the commission for an appeal. So here we are for the appeal. You guys had actually come to us in April for your first round of appeal. And because we had questions for you, we asked you to come up with the answers to those questions and come back to us. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands the denial was administrative. That would happen to anybody who came to us, whether you were a school, a church, another establishment, the king, the pope, everybody would get that denial. So then you come to us and you say, this is why we think that maybe that flow rate that was determined was a little bit high and why it might be less than was determined by the Board of Health. So the Board of Health uses one tool. We can actually zoom out a bit and look at other ways that you might have a different flow rate than they established, right? So we can use a larger scope to look at your actual daily flow rate that may or may not affect our max capacity for the town. And Concord has as all towns have, they have a limited capacity that is set by the EPA with a special permit called a NIPDES permit that we don't get to just increase when we want, even though we would love to. So the other worry that this commission has is how close we're getting to that maximum capacity. We can't go over it. There's repercussions for that. So what we have to look at today is, will this flow rate from this bathroom building substantially increase our daily maximum flow rate that's allowed by this permit? Like, will this building push us over those limits? That's what we have to.
Andre, can I
Yeah.
kind of help? Just I want to clarify because, the terms matter a lot
Yeah.
and Andre's been doing a lot to try and understand this fairly complex process. A max day is Title V. That's what the Board of Health uses. They don't independently come up with criteria. If there's defined use in Title V, that's a state regulation. There's a flow associated with it. That's determined by a committee of experts. And it's not something that each community does independently. The denial is based on a concern for managing a very limited capacity for our wastewater treatment plant. And 1,000 gallons per day was deemed by the commission to be a significant flow. But independently, it says, we want to look at this. And that's where the appeal, it's administratively denied. So it comes before the commission to evaluate. They're not going to change a daily flow that's established by Title V. They're going to evaluate it. How does it potentially impact? And this is what's important, the 12-month rolling average of our permit. So a daily spike is one control point, which is very important. If it's on a septic system, you would overwhelm that septic system. If it's on a municipal system, you need to know you have the infrastructure that can handle it. So that's sort of a mechanical sort of design basis that's really important. the average 12-month average flow to the treatment plant allows the commission to put that in perspective. Does this particular application put that at, every additional drop puts it at some risk, but the commission's been charged to manage this federal and state permit. And there's a comprehensive wastewater master plan that helps sort of guide that. So the commission really is there to try and protect the town's interest when it comes to that permit itself. So the Title V is sort of a basis for a sewer improvement. And it's also a trigger for review from the commission. And the commission really needs to look at that and not necessarily look at the design basis of the day, but look at the impact over the 12 months. Is that
So,
helpful?
so it's measured as a daily 12 months average.
It's a rolling,
monthly, so in a month.
monthly average, 12 months. So it's.
So if, let's say, this is up for 1 day in a month, that's the impact to the average calculation.
Say that again?
Let's say if it would be, let's say in extreme, it would be 5,000 gallons
In
a day on that maximum day, when there's graduation celebrations.
That's right.
And so on. So
That's
you
right.
go up 5,000 gallon a day and on that 1 day.
Correct.
But then in the calculation against our permit, that will be watered down by the other 29 days of the
Significant.
month. Yeah, so,
Significantly, yes.
okay, just to understand.
That's right, that's
The
right.
math impact on our permits.
And it really matters. Is that 1 day a year? Is it
Yeah.
12 days a year? Is it every day?
Okay,
that sort
and
of,
then, our connection fees are based on the Title V
Correct.
capacity,
Correct.
yeah?
And that's a fee policy that was set in nineteen
So
eighty-nine.
no matter what we say, you would say we are fine, we believe it would be only 1,000 gallon and so on. The fee would be still on the Title V.
Yes,
That's right.
and that
Okay.
you guys are okay with that. They're not even.
I mean, I'm just want to
Disputing
try
it.
to,
Mhm.
I try to understand it, and I think it's good for everyone to understand
Yeah,
it.
so the fee was based on the policy that was set back in 1989. And that fee is based on the Title V calculations. So even if the flow rate will actually be less in reality, the fee is still based on the Title V calculations.
So I think the last thing, my understanding is we have to, as a commission, we have to think about what does it mean for other potential applications coming
Correct.
down the road?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that there's a clear documentation why we would accept that, because normally everything above 1,000, there must be really, really good reason why we accept it. Otherwise, someone comes and who's opening a restaurant or whatever, or a beer brewery who uses a lot of water, they would come back to us. So we have to be very specific why we would make that decision
Correct.
and
So-
document that properly so that any future commission don't have a problem.
Right. So two other things is that, when you guys came to us, you had your plans. Your plans were very detailed. The application to water and sewer included detailed designs of how this new hookup will connect. So no one has to design a hookup. This has come up at other meetings. You guys have that under control. Also, that design for that hookup, the connection, is not up to us to approve. That will be
Not this
approved
meeting, yeah.
by the department. So what we are discussing here tonight is that impact of the flow rate on our rolling average, on our 12-month rolling average. The other thing I wanted to say was when these policies were adopted in the 80s, this certain criteria, the commission at the time thought that certain criteria could in fact be looked at to see if the applicant to look at other reasons why we could approve an application that might go over the 1,000 gallons per day. So those examples include whether the project is in the best interest of the town, is it consistent with the direction of smart growth affordable housing or a comprehensive long-range plan? Is it supported at town meeting? And are there recommendations from other boards? So those are some of the questions you can ask yourself if you're looking at whether or not this connection would be a good thing for the town or not a good thing for the town.
Can I ask a flow question? So Alan, given that our treatment plant right now is near capacity, would a day with 5,400 gallons cause a backup? Could the system handle it?
No, the peak flow of the facility is far greater than the 12-month rolling average. Peak flow, we go from an average of, around million gallons a day average. We've treated up to 4 million, I think, in a day.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any problem.
This would not be a peak flow issue for the treatment facility. It just needs to be it needs to be evaluated on the other infrastructure, for instance, the service. It presently feeds the school, so they'd have to look at their design, but our system, the collection system, any downstream pump system could handle that.
Okay. And the pipes and everything, we're all okay, so.
Yeah, that would
the
be,
flow rate is all fine.
exactly.
I just wanted to be sure that we weren't gonna cause problems downstream.
And that would generally be, if there wasn't a wastewater permit capacity constraint, those are the things staff would be looking at with the applicant and making sure their design engineer had that factored in, because one, we don't want them to have a problem, and we certainly don't want them to introduce a problem into our system. So that's the more technical review that's done internally.
One thing that didn't get alluded to, at least explicitly in your list there of other criteria that could be considered is, and somebody else can articulate this better than I, but the ADA implications for not doing this.
Right, yes,
I mean, that needs to be on the table. It seems like,
absolutely.
as part of the decision. And I don't know, but back in the 1980s or whenever they were thinking about those things, but
Yeah,
certainly that is a.
yeah,
factor.
that's really the impetus for getting this done.
That could be part of the best interest of the town.
Yeah.
Right, right.
I'd say it's covered, but you'd capture that, because not
Right,
every
right,
applicant
right.
is gonna have that as one of their reasons.
Right,
Yeah.
let me be the confused one here. So where is the pinch point? What is the thing we're trying to?
The reason it's before this commission is because of the potential impact on the permit, which is the 12-month rolling average.
Right,
And the 1,000 gallons a day is simply a flag to say, this is more than a large residential this is a significant flow,
right,
but that's where the commission has the discretion to look at it. And it's a stadium, not, a new wing to the hospital, for instance.
which would have.
They're
more
different.
permanent, which would
Yeah,
have
so
more
you look at
permanent.
those as, what's the potential impact on the permit? That's why it's in front of the commission.
So because they have to count every seat in the stadium, when that stadium is
That's
filled,
it.
it's a lot, but
Yeah,
most days it's not
yeah,
filled,
right.
1 or 2 days a year, so. And it will be closed for the winter. You guys have already shrunk what you wanted originally. It was gonna be a much bigger building with more toilet stalls and possibly more sinks and other facilities. That has been shrunk a lot.
So one question we had last time, because one thing is also looking at alternative implementation. So is there an alternative to the current proposed structure that would avoid a sewer connection? And I think you provided us with some answers there. Why, for example, composting is deemed not feasible. I feel comfortable from what I read there.
Okay.
From what you provided forward, but I don't know if other commissioners.
I read so much about composting toilets.
You're an expert now?
I could build one. But
How could you maintain it?
that's, yeah, maintaining is difficult, and especially when you're sunk down into a valley and the potential for needing actually platform toilets, it's just too much. It's too much.
Just, since we're talking about alternatives, have we looked at low flow and maybe having a leach field somewhere?
The leach
not being
field
on the
they
system.
have talked about.
We have, so back, one of the major limiting factors for most of the alternatives is the water table at that site. We had new geotechnical work performed back last fall when this got started. The groundwater table is about 2 feet below grade, that pavement where we're putting the building. So that does not leave us nearly enough room for a typical septic tank and leach field system. We could do a leach field, we would need to raise it at least 2 feet to give us the separation we need. The only place we could feasibly do that is to the west of the building, which is in the baseball playing fields. So we would be raising, a part of that outfield 2 feet, which would be a disturbance in itself. That would also most likely require pump system similar to what we're already proposing to get it to that leach field. And we looked at the other side of the building, maybe going up the hill closer to the access drive. Same issue, you could put it there, but we're gonna need a pump anyways. So that'll already be in the cost, more or less.
So why is it that the Board of Health can't adjust their process? So that was what we
Well-
asked these folks to do, to go back, talk to the Board of Health, tell
Melanie,
us why.
so Melanie Deneen, who
So,
is
yeah,
the director of.
So
public
why can we
health,
consider other things and the Board of Health cannot?
So we looked at all the sewer formats using the Title V design flow tables. Okay, so there's no, in Title V, there's a specific for stadium, this is the flow rate that's been determined per seat. We don't have a variance process for that.
But in Title V, there is a variance process.
So if this was a Board of Health permit and we were issuing an on-site wastewater system, it could come before the Board of Health.
But the variance in Title V says the approving authority, and that's defined as the health department.
For an on-site wastewater system.
Yes,
This is not an on-site wastewater system.
This-
It's a table in Title V that we're using to determine. It's been vetted through many processes, so what the maximum flow rate, again, so it's. Maximum flow rate that could possibly be for a septic system.
So if we were to approve this, we are not in conflict with you?
No, it's your determination.
it's all.
I understand, but you came out and said it was 5,000,
I did,
and that's not something we can approve, so.
so I
Yeah.
said it was the maximum.
Yeah.
Hold
Okay.
on, I think it'd be very clear.
Yeah.
Again, the Title V is a peak day.
Right,
The only reason you're reviewing it is because of the 12-month rolling average. So the Title V is what is done across the board. You don't put the Board of Health into creative interpretation of, a stadium is clearly defined in Title V. So the flow is not the concern of the commission as far as the peak day. Staff would tell you if that was a problem. That's a design issue.
mm-hmm,
It's the monthly permit. And so your
Okay.
question is it in conflict? Not at
No.
all.
okay. that's
The
what I was
only
looking
reason
to
it's in
find out.
front of you is because it was a flag, because it's significant enough change. And every case by case, the criteria that Andre sort of identified, the commission views to say, basically, the most important thing is, will it compromise our permit? That's the overarching. And then you use those criteria, to evaluate it. So I want to be very clear.
Melanie
So,
can
so
only
just so for me to clarify that, I understand, so Title V has in section 410 following the variance process, and there's 16 variances for schools and 15 variances for existing systems. That's only if for septic or so not for sewer connection.
Right, there's not a sewer connection the Board of Health is not the administrator of the actual sewer connection you are. We're using it as a metric, if you will, to equitably
Yeah.
assess all
Yeah, but you're
applicants.
using it as a metric for the number of toilets and everything, so,
The number of toilets is set by the plumbing code,
okay.
so
But the plumbing code takes Title V peak flow, or what?
the plumbing code. No, this
The seats.
is about
It's the
the
seats in the-
It's about the number of people that could be flushing the toilets. Okay, and it's a maximum if you were designing an on-site wastewater system, you're designing it so the biggest flow, the biggest day of the year, that on-site wastewater could handle and not contaminate the groundwater. That's the premise of this code, right? And that was set in 1989, as Andrea outlined, as the design parameters that we reviewed.
And the plumbing code doesn't have a variance provision.
It has a variance for the number of toilets that sometimes I do approve for schools and review. That's separate from Title V.
Okay, and this was done here, was the number of toilets reduced from the plumbing code?
I believe so. I signed off on that as much as they can.
So you've reduced it to as low a number of toilets as you can.
Correct. And the only other variance we went for, which was, you know, in process the last time we were before this commission, was reducing the lavatory count. The code had mistakenly requested or required 12 lavatories for the number of toilets that we're providing, which is obviously significantly higher than what you would really need.
Okay,
So we sent that application in. We went before the state board in August, and since then they have actually changed the code before that meeting.
okay,
They've fixed that error. So we are upping the laboratory count to 6 for each gender, and therefore we no longer require a variance.
okay.
Now, one question, this is more the potential forward-looking liabilities for public works. We are not responsible for any issues on whatever, your grinder pump that is getting built in and so on. You're not calling up public works if a teenager puts something in the toilet and the pump fails.
We're calling the maintenance team, our maintenance team, and the teenager's parents.
And do you have a backup grinder pump?
Yeah, so the pump manufacturers, the ones at least that we're looking at, to public projects, we have to do or equal, but the ones that we work with to design these, they have a 24/7 maintenance team. And these pumps come equipped with float alarms. If anything goes on and that well fills higher than it should be, an alarm goes off, it's audible and visual on the outside of the building. And again, they have 24/7 maintenance, and that's worst case scenario, you're replacing a pump, but the wet well and the remaining infrastructure.
I think, I don't want to discuss the design, it's just more that you
Yeah,
don't
no.
have an ongoing liability. That
Correct,
it's
it's the
public
schools,
work.
that's right.
So,
Yeah.
because the design will not be approved by this commission.
Right.
So I just ask that you pay attention to what the water sewer department engineers are telling you. To take that into consideration, because that will not be in a public meeting. That's up to you guys. That's on the schools. And worse than not having a building would be having that building not be working.
Sure,
So,
now I've talked to Alan and
Okay.
to Darren LaFallam, and
yes.
who's helpful in
Darren,
giving us
thank
some.
you.
Nice to see you in person. Thank you for your help in gathering the usage data. So we've worked with him to gather, we were at 12% of our capacity for the high school. I also note that our FY25 usage included graduation, which was inside.
Okay,
So, you know, moving outside, it's gonna be the same usage between the combined amenities and the high school. It's just moving it from one building to the other.
okay.
So you're confident that 1,000, the average is just gonna be a couple of days
Yeah.
a year? You think it'll be under that?
So just as context, we have a school building full of 1,300 students and staff, and actually might be low. But 1,300 students and staff for 180 days, school days. And we used an average of 3,600 gallons per day over the whole year. And that's with a full school of students and staff. The stands are relatively empty most of the time. They're certainly empty in the winter,
Mhm,
and not too full in the summer.
right.
And then football games are somewhat attended.
How many games you have? Like 5 or 6, right?
5 or 6.
The 6 home games.
And Thanksgiving
And
Day games aren't as
graduation.
big a deal as it used to be because of
Right.
the change in the MA playoff.
Mhm.
Graduation is probably the one big event, and sometimes it's inside.
Okay.
So it's just.
I have one more question.
Okay.
So, given that, what's the timing on this, right? So the town rejected the funding vote, right? So you're gonna go back and try and get more funding, or are you gonna go private? When will this happen?
CPC has approved fully funding
Okay,
the project, and then we have to go back to Carlisle because there's expired. It was contingent on Concord passing
Okay.
it, so we'll go back to Carlisle.
Yep.
Ask for them to approve again,
And then it's funded. We've already set aside more than we need for the sewer connection fee.
Okay,
And we're within, the money we've set aside is within.
okay, so this is achievable. You can,
Yeah,
you
oh,
can
yeah,
get it
yeah.
done. Okay, thanks.
Just have made a calculation, even if we are assuming it would be 5,000 gallon peak usage for one day in a month. That has an impact on the rolling average of 160 gallons. So just.
160.
Is the effect,
Yeah.
so if you assume you have one peak day in the month of all capacity that is on Title 5,000 plus gallons. That has an impact of 160 on the rolling average.
Mhm.
That's just,
And that's okay, right?
but that's not a big impact
No.
to our
No,
permit.
the permit is 1.2 million.
Yeah.
So 160 or 16?
160, 160, but is
Just thinking 5,000 divided by 365. Is
no,
that
5,000, the rolling average on a monthly basis, so
Oh,
divided
okay.
by 30.
30.
No, can we ask Darren for his input on this? I mean,
Absolutely.
could you come up and?
Sure.
I'd love to have your thoughts on this.
Both Darren and Melanie have worked a lot with, the schools and with Dale and Associates to give them all the data they need. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I'd love to know, what are your thoughts? Do you think that the system's okay? Can we do this without any implications in the long run?
With the overarching consideration being that we have very little capacity left in the wastewater treatment plant and permit. I think the intermittent nature of this utility helps us confidently move forward, saying we can handle the output from this. If you look at the months that we were over our wastewater permit in 2004, January, February, March, April, because of weather. Granted, the weather's getting more variable now, so you can get weather anomalies any time of the year. But this facility is gonna be shut down during those 4 months, which further increases my comfort that we can handle this capacity.
Okay.
That was 2024, not
24.
2004. Yeah.
Sorry, that was close, 20 years ago.
Wow. You went back and really looked at that. Impressed. Okay, so you're feeling this is okay?
Because of the intermittent nature,
Okay,
I think that's something that we have to lean into. If it's approved, we have to document that. Because that's gonna be a defining characteristic of this application compared to future
Would
applications.
we want to create limits?
I don't think that's necessary.
we just have to be sure that our language has intermittent.
Yeah, I guess I just made a note here under the motion.
Okay, yeah, because it's not in the. Okay. Right, any other thoughts that you want to give us?
No, if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No, that was my question. Okay,
All right, any more questions?
Not hearing anything here that makes me want to vote for this motion.
Okay, and do we have anybody online that has questions? Any questions from the public?
Don't see any.
Alan, do you have any views?
No, I just want to emphasize that the questions the commission asked early were good, but more helpful for the school to really understand it. I think the school went back and did some additional work to make sure it is the right approach. And the system does include a duplex pump system, and the duplex means the pumps alternate. And if
Okay.
one gets bound
So that
up,
is a
the
backup.
other works.
Alright.
That's a duplex. So that's their first defense, and that's really important. And when you get the alarm, because one pump has failed, that's when you call, the support, and they'll come and, so that's some of the, the
Redundancy.
redundancy is important in this one. Again, that's for the school's benefit.
Great, do I have a motion?
So
I think he has he's
I have
rereading.
the text here, yeah. I, Sven Weaver, hereby make a motion that the administrative denial triggered by the theoretical Title 5 design flow be overturned, and the Public Works Commission hereby approves the sewer service connection for the new amenities building at the Concord Carlisle High School, taking into account the intermittent profile of this facility, as the peak flow capacity will be only a few days a year and will not materially impact the average daily flow as measured on a monthly basis.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for coming back to us.
No problem.
Yes, really helpful. My pleasure, thanks.
Explaining things I never thought I'd know.
You and Andre can have a
So-
fit at some point.
Fun with avoiding teenagers putting bad stuff in the very
Thank you, Melanie.
Thanks, Melanie. Thanks to Melanie and Darren. You guys did a lot of help there.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry, I see
Oh.
Paul Bone
All right, Paul.
had a hand up.
Yeah, just a question unrelated to the motion, but is there going to be the capacity to actually monitor the real flow from this facility? Just so down the road we can examine our various assumptions. That would be very
Yes.
helpful.
Yeah, so Paul, the flow is actually metered, so it's, the water meter itself is the instrument that can measure this.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, so we'll move on to D4 Stormwater Utility Program Abatement Process.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's see, we want to bring up Steve Dukran.
What's the meeting without him?
Yeah, we just wanted to, as we are getting ready to roll out the first bills for the stormwater utility, with a lot of the public outreach, with the flyers that we've submitted in the utility, concrete utility bills, some of the promotional things we've done with news and notice, people are starting to ask questions. We have a tool online where they could go to their property and actually get a sense of what their fee might be. So what's happened, and as we've been trying to design and construct the utility billing software system, certain questions have come up, or not questions, issues that we wouldn't have identified, previously are now kind of coming to the forefront. And before, we're in a situation of, you may recall the framework for the utility includes various components in, an appeal process, a credit process. We want to make sure that administratively we could address some of the higher level issues that we've identified, work it through with the commission just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And in essence, what we're looking for is if someone wants to appeal the assessment and the basis of it, we want to make sure administratively we could deal with that. If they don't like the administrative staff's response, then they would come to the commission. But what we want to make sure is we hit the high level issues as far as, as the memo that was submitted. We're trying to be consistent with the way this utility was constructed. Want to make sure we're clear when we do the review, what the basis of that review is, and we want to vet that with you and to share that and get your blessing before we start getting, questions. So
So you
Steve-
want to have things in place so that you don't always have to come to the commission?
Exactly. The interest is so the staff can do the administrative work and make sure it's doing it consistent with what the commission has, as I say, kind of blessed.
Okay.
Okay, Steve, is that?
Yeah, that's captured pretty much how we had set this up. You may remember we've gone through a couple of years of putting this plan together and deliberately kept out most of the complications. So that was easily understood by the public and the commission. And thinking that when these situations arise, they may be few in between and we'll deal with them. But we have had enough, feedback and concerns from the public that we need to set up a process, a more formal process for dealing with those.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want us to just walk through
Sure.
the high level. Is that helpful?
Do you, 'cause
That's what I would propose.
you want us to look at
Yeah,
the
what-
different scenarios and decide on what might be the best. way
Yeah,
to
just
handle it.
agree to that makes, that's sense, makes sense. And again, we know, we have, the real overlying challenge for stormwater utility is it's relatively new. There aren't a lot out there. The way fees are assessed, I'm just gonna refresh your memory. There could be a simple flat fee, not based on anything other than just kind of arbitrary, but there's this many properties. That's been done in certain, areas. The choice we made was to look at the impervious area on a property. And we also know there's a lot of roads and streets that are public too. So all of the impervious cover in Concord is what impacts the stormwater quality. And that's, we're trying to meet a permit and a regulation that deals with managing stormwater, both flow and pollutant loads from them. We have a very good database or good GIS, Geographic Information System, with aerial photography that we've used to create data on each parcel. And that data is specifically relates to the impervious, cover, that area. We know it may be imperfect, so that's where there may be an appeal process. So we're using the information we have to assign an area. We've done a lot of checking, double checking to try and figure out, how accurate is it? But that area could be challenged. And if someone were to bring information to us that we can use and drill in and it can improve or modify that, we want to entertain that. That's the process. I'll also remind you that because of the way the fee was structured, it's not based on every square inch, it's based on bins of area. So 0 to 2,500 square feet, 2,500 square feet to 5,000, plus or minus. We're really talking about, for those smaller areas, somewhere between $60 and $120 a year or something. So we're really not trying to get too granular. It has to be administratively something we can do. So that's where we went through how many bins and what are the way we sort of, put in, your area. So if you have a fee based on, and it'll show in your bill, 2,000 square feet of impervious cover. Well, if you say it's off by 50 square feet, that doesn't change your rate. It's really only when it's significant enough, are you really going to look at, how granular do you want to see it? We'll get as granular as you want if it's going to make a difference. So that's part of one aspect. The other is not all impervious cover drains to the town's stormwater system directly. And we know that because every property is a little bit different. And so we know there's concerns, well, if I have impervious cover, but it's not draining to the municipal stormwater system, why am I assessed a fee? Well, the fee is based on the environmental protection. That's what the stormwater is all about, environmental protection and infrastructure that we do to manage it. So when we have the MS4 permit, we do monitoring of the surface water systems and the discharges to that. So we wanted to make sure that people understood, and we understood, that whether it's direct or indirect, it's not going to modify your fee. And that also, and we talk about that as far as the background, but we also understand that we try to allow credit for people who want to set up a system to better manage or mitigate the stormwater flow at their property. It's something, it's an offering. We've done this kind of search around the country as far as other utilities and what they've done. So this is not an unusual opportunity. And we do want to, enhance or have people do, things that could be environmentally beneficial. But those systems need to be sort of identified and managed. And that's part of the process. Is you may have a rain garden, but if we give you a credit, that rain garden has to be maintained. Property could sell and someone else doesn't want the rain garden and they just stop maintaining it. Well, we don't know this, so that's why we have the fact that it's a design that fits into the toolbox of best practices. So it's clearly defined, and that's part of what we're looking at. You can establish some kind of credit system for that. And we're not trying to make it onerous for people to apply, because they might be applying for a $25 credit or something, which is okay. So we want to honor that, but they do have to apply, and we do have to administratively review this. And we want to make sure it's a process that is easy enough for the owner to ask, but it's also something staff can administer. And I've looked, online to find various models, and there's some that get pretty granular, but it would be on the capacity of our staff to be able to manage. And the question is there really value? And some are fairly simple, just maybe for residential, small residential, it's a checkbox of, yep. So we can do that quickly, we can apply the credit, and, the process continues. There's gonna be larger complexes, because the fees are greater for those institutions and complexes with lots of impervious cover, roof cover, that sort of thing. They may have a stormwater management system in their campus, but that again would probably be a different kind of vetting, because the credit of, now we're talking about thousands of dollars. Well, it's worth making sure that we're, capturing it. So we're trying to strike that balance. We know this isn't perfect, but doing a lot of homework in the last month to see what's out there. That's kind of the philosophy on, where we've landed on how we could administer this. And we're not talking about the credit policy per se. We're talking about the appeal process. We want to make sure that we get your blessing that, yes, you have the right idea.
Mhm.
If you guys administer it this way, we understand it. If anybody were to appeal, it wouldn't be introduced as new information, or, because these are common challenges that we would see if we don't have a system we agreed upon. That's what we've identified in the memo.
Take a second to make sure it's clear, because the terms are not synonymous. So there's a credit policy,
Right.
and which allows the residents or the owners to do a credit application that will be processed by staff. And that's for the best practice management systems, right? So that's credit. And even though the bylaw has a section called appeals, it really starts with an abatement. So the owners can apply for an abatement, meaning that they have a problem with a calculated fee.
Mhm.
And that's what this policy we're discussing about, even though Alan talked about appeals.
Right.
When we talk about appeals are very, really when they get denied, on a credit application or an abatement application, and they appeal to this commission.
Okay.
So we keep that clear.
Thank you, Steve. It's the abatement. Yeah.
So do you want to walk through these
Yeah, I think
scenarios?
it's worth
Okay.
walking through, because this is important, and this is also an opportunity. If people want to understand this more, they can come to this link in the meeting to hear, the discussion, but.
Do you need us to decide on the different approaches that you are outlining here?
Well, let's talk about them one by one as far as the bins we've captured. We've talked about the indirect and direct impact on the stormwater system, the infrastructure.
Can you also point out when
Yeah.
you're telling us who in your staff, who are the lucky people in your staff who are going to be managing these?
Sammy, can you raise your hand?
Such a lucky person.
And-
Seriously, I mean, what's the staffing at each point, where does the burden fall?
Well, we think the
to-
first wave is going to be the first, what are the questions? We are going to have through the customer service group at the utility billing group, they answer all sorts of questions. They're going to be provided with information to at least provide some guidance. So as a phone call comes in, they can be helpful. They can also direct people to the website, which if they read, they can then sort of better understand. If there's an overload on the number of calls coming in there's a third party support that can at least answer the basic questions. When it comes to wanting to review the details of, my impervious area, that will be, at this point, the engineering division is taking the lead. But I think the question is gonna be understanding, is it really worth your while? Because our data is pretty good. The imagery we have is pretty good. I think if there's something legitimately grossly out of whack, then I imagine someone's gonna challenge that. I don't see that as being the big lift. I think it's the explanation of it. I don't think we're gonna get a lot of detailed submittals that are gonna challenge the impervious area on the property. Steve, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I think so far we've gotten for each of the scenarios, and we had 3 scenarios in the memo, and we got a handful for a couple of them, and we got a little bit more than a handful for one of the others. Those are the areas of concern, and if we establish a systematic way of dealing with them, I think we'll be in good shape. And in terms of the burden of dealing, obviously some questions that the clearinghouse will not be able to answer, and we'll be pushing them up to us. So that first wave will probably be quite a bit to handle, but after that, I think we should be in relatively good shape.
And there is something important, I think it's part of the bylaw. I believe where you need to pay the fee. And then
Apply for an abatement.
apply for an abatement. So to get the ball rolling, and because the default is, we're pretty comfortable with our assessment, but it doesn't mean it is always going to be right.
Sure.
And so we will certainly administratively review that. And once someone puts in an abatement request, we'll get the sense of, what are we talking about? Is it 10 square feet? It's way off. What happened? So. Okay, so that's sort of and some of the considerations we talked about is, it's important that we talk about, differentiating natural conditions that people say, I've got a lot of property versus a BMP. A BMP, best management practice, is a defined kind of system. And we're not making that up. There's sort of the routine are rain gardens, storm gutters that sort of discharge impervious cover, dry wells. There's things that people can do. They capture them, they can submit that they have these, and we can document that, yes, yes, yes. And if you remember, and again, I don't want to get too far down the credit path, but that's for an abatement, that's a credit. The abatement is challenging the basis of the fee. And the impervious area is the big question, which could be interesting. And we want to make sure that we understand that not all stormwater flow on a property is not going to the stormwater system. That's the case. We're not going to differentiate where it's 100%, 1%, or everything in between. Just administratively impossible. All properties, when they talk about impervious area, it's not draining to the stormwater system. And also, they all have different hydrogeologic settings. Some it's going to flow over because it's clay material. Some are sandy. We don't want to get into that kind of analysis and interpretation. Large storm events, maybe it doesn't flow in some conditions to the town system, but in others with extreme, it may. Again, we don't want to get into trying to differentiate that. Really, it's the balance of the environmental impact and the practicality of administering the program that is just sort of, straightforward, whether it's direct or indirect impact, it's part of the fee. It's the impervious area regardless of that. So that's the first area where we're just conceptually need to make sure we're on the same page, because if we do it any other way, I don't think it's administratively possible. It's not how we presented it at any time. I just want to clarify that. So Questions, comments on indirect, direct?
It doesn't seem, the points that you made don't seem unreasonable, but as we go through the process, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
Right?
That's right.
So we'll learn as we go through it, and perhaps there's things we didn't think about, or,
Mhm.
that will impact our policy.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. But they don't seem unreasonable to me.
Did you need us to, do you want guidance on which approach to take for like the common driveway?
Let's go to that one next, okay? So the first one was sort of an overarching.
Okay.
Now we're gonna talk
But
about.
let's
Yeah, go ahead.
let's settle on the first one. I
Yeah.
think the statement made in the memo.
Yeah.
Beginning with, therefore, the Public Works Commission had determined, it means that that's the practice that's already accepted. We will move forward with that,
Okay.
yes.
Good. With condominiums, so what we've learned, and this was something, again, we didn't really have on our radar. We were working on the baseline assessment of number of condominiums on a property, because there is separate ownership. And remember, we are billing owners so that we can lien as a utility, we don't pay. We simply are taking the total impervious area and dividing by the number of condominiums. It's a simple math. It's a good way to start, the process. We realized that it may not fit every situation. It's probably going to fit the majority. We're not talking about a lot, but where there is a compelling case, or someone might make let's use an extreme. It's a larger commercial complex, and 90% of that commercial complex is one condominium, and 10% it's a smaller operation. Well, splitting it 50-50 doesn't seem right. So it's likely going to be the smaller operation that's going to look at it saying, this doesn't seem fair, I'm just a small portion. We want to allow for better data to then dictate what should be the appropriate apportionment. And that's really all it is, because we went with a simple math to begin with. If someone requests an abatement, we will then consider better data to assess that. It's fairly straightforward, but I will say we kind of wrestled, well, how do we deal with this? So we sort of talked about, using the legal tool and mechanics of condominium association agreements
Right.
and.
So how many condominium associations do we have?
We don't expect a lot of these, but
How many
enough.
do we have? We have,
Steve, do you know if we have a number for the number of?
is Newbury Court, is that part of that considered condos? And then you have a place that's
Concord Green is.
Concord Green.
It's a good example. And so that's
Are those the
right.
two major ones? Where else are there big condos?
You have condos, they're sprinkled all over, but most of them are the smaller.
Okay.
And we want to make sure that, the condo on Hubbard Street,
Mhm.
it's 2 units.
Yeah.
It's different than
Yeah.
what you just described.
Okay,
But usually, if there is a way to apportionment the property management, it's documented. And we're willing to accept that. If there's an apportionment of how much responsibility each that's a good.
condo
vehicle.
fees are based that way.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Yeah.
And we want to enter, and once we have that, that'll be a correction
Okay.
probably once, and, then we'll be done.
Is
So-
that what you would need the master deed for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you would also make de minimis rules here, right? So if the difference is, less than 25, you tell me, I wouldn't go around adjusting all this stuff, right? So if you want, you can set up some de minimis rules, because otherwise you'll be adjusting a zillion properties. So you
That's why
think about that.
there's tiers, right? So
Yeah,
it's not gonna be-
again, they're gonna be looking, you're right, I like the idea of the de minimis rules, I'm not sure. We know, this is Concord, sometimes people will put a lot of effort in for, $25, and others will. Not even sneeze
Yeah.
at, hundreds, so.
Right, well, it's a
Yeah.
question of the volume administratively for
Correct,
you, right?
correct.
So be thinking about that.
We'll think about that, and that's a good point,
Yeah.
if we need to, make
Yeah.
an adjustment.
So you're giving examples of residential condominiums, but what about
Commercial, could
a
be-
commercial? I mean, I'm thinking of like, I don't know who's going into the Welsh building.
Yeah.
So at that point, it could be, Emerson versus like Spend Corp.
Mhm.
Okay, and so Spend Corp.
I have the largest footprint ever, right?
Okay, but I'm just wondering, so, I just went, those buildings, when they were assessed, did their actual, were they just, okay, there's two different entities in the Welsh building.
That's it. That's the baseline.
And that's the baseline, and so now they can come to you saying, we only have an office like the size of this room.
Give us the documentation
Okay,
and we will then use that because it's better information.
okay, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's right. That's the
So this
intent.
is also, I just wanted to be sure that condominiums was also dealing with.
Yes, commercial and residential.
Is there in all of these? It's a overall question, is there kind of a timeline, backwards looking timeline limit? That you're not 3 years in, someone starts to abate and wants to get retroactive adjustments for,
The law provides for that, actually.
okay?
They have 30 days from receiving the bill to contest the bill.
But only that bill
Yes,
and not,
previous bills.
okay. So the maximum time exposure, liability exposure that is there more or less in that sense
It's 1 month.
is 1 month,
Mm.
okay?
And then that will be, let's say that they win, and that will be changed on their bill. going
There's no
forward.
win. They just
Okay.
provide good information and
They
we
provide great
adjust it.
information,
Yeah.
and so the
We
fee is
adjust.
changed,
Yeah.
and that fee change will then be there, they don't have to do it every month. You'll
Right.
No,
change
that's
it.
right. It,
They
it's-
just-
it allows us to
That it's
set,
updated and
Correct.
reset.
that's right.
So you have a budget for what you're gonna collect on this fee,
Mhm.
because you have money you wanna spend,
That's right.
you're gonna use this for, right?
Mhm.
So it's the same thing with property tax, there's kind of a reserve that gets created for abatements. Are you thinking about
Yeah.
that? So you just put that in your cap as well, right?
So a couple things. That's the credit issue. The abatement
Okay,
is simply an adjustment to get it right.
but it could be less income for you.
Well, let's put it this
Yeah.
way. The abatement for the condominium is just an apportionment. It's the same fee.
Okay,
So it doesn't affect that.
okay,
In the area, if we got it wrong, it's gonna be very de minimis. We don't, we have good
Yeah.
data. The
Okay.
plus or minus 2.5% is
okay.
probably what we'll see.
Right,
So-
for the common driveway.
Okay, common driveway is another very interesting, or easements. So there's a lot of situations in Concord where, you know, the basis of the fee, the default is impervious cover area on your parcel. But there are common driveways that serve multiple parcels. And you may see one of the residents has most of that common drive on its property. And then it splinters off to a couple other residents that are only gonna get a portion of their impervious area on their property. And the default is the fee goes out based on what's on your property, that's what you're assessed. If someone raises a concern that says, this doesn't seem fair, because they can go on the tool and the web and see what their neighbors paying. We are willing, we're gonna portion that fee based on what are the mechanisms, Steve, we have? We have, I guess, yeah, we have
Yeah.
various approaches. And Andre, your point is, do you have to decide which approach? I'm not sure we need to. I think we just, these are methods that we could apply. And only if they felt aggrieved that we didn't pick the right method or it wasn't fair, we're trying to be as fair and reasonable as possible. Then they might come to the commission saying, well, they wouldn't, but we're trying to do whatever works best and we can get agreement is sort of the approach. So these approaches are, I think there's 3 or 4 different approaches that we would be willing to entertain. And
What are you gonna put in the bill? Approach one? What one are you gonna use?
well, once it's determined, then we would reassess, we'd reconfigure, so the area was, say, your parcel and Steve parcel had, and you had, 5,050 to begin with, and Steve had 2,000. Well, maybe you're at, 3,000 and he's at 4,000, and you would both go into that tier. What's for you is what is the area that we're putting in on your bill?
Mm-hmm.
And, I think, it's a good question, is now how do we track that? That's a question I think we need to look in the billing system. But the adjustment would simply be the impervious area that's on your bill would be adjusted.
Could you cause some problems? Like Sven and I share a driveway
Yeah,
and I claim that Sven has, his is double wide, I'm single, and so he should pay 2/3 of our abatement. And then we get really picky, and so let's say it's 50-50 the first time, and then the next time he's got,
do you have a legal document that would show that apportionment?
oh yeah,
If you do, then we'd consider it.
okay, but then
That's approach 4.
Yeah,
that's a patrol, yeah, and then, but Sven, next time he gets a higher bill and he's like, that's not fair.
doesn't matter. He can legally challenge it, but we have better basis of the
And you go back
assessment.
and forth.
Yeah.
1 month I file, next month.
The intent, Gretchen, is that we're just trying to be as fair,
Yeah,
and if you have better data. And it will adjust and, make the fee.
Yep.
More we'll consider it.
okay,
The goal is we have to start with something. And it will be refined,
Right.
and it's trying to be equitable.
I got it now.
So just to be selfish, so I have the situation that my neighbor has an easement on my lot.
Okay,
And the driveway is only for my neighbor.
okay, and the easement.
The easement just says the neighbor has an easement.
Okay, yeah,
That's it, but
Yeah.
it's fully paved and everything, but it only goes to my neighbor's garage.
okay,
My garage has a different driveway.
Yeah.
So would that fall on approach 1 where that easement is only?
Yeah.
Used for
as
one?
long as
house?
you're not using it. I mean, yeah, that would be,
Classification will have to come from both of the property owners.
In both of the property owners.
I'm not sure about that, Sammy. No, we need to start with,
Where's that?
it's gonna be like the condominium association.
There need to be agreement between both things.
No, that's what I'm saying. If there's a legal basis, we will consider it. But it's like the condominium association. Here's what's gonna happen. The aggrieved small unit in that large commercial complex, if they have the documentation, we will use it. The larger unit may not like it, but we have a basis, to assign it. So it's all about,
So
kind
in
of-
this case, if Sven were to provide the easements, that's all you need,
yeah, that's all we need.
and you're sure.
Well,
Well,
I tell you, Yeah.
I think we are in the memo, right, in the opening paragraph here. But Andre, you asked about which method. We asked that the commission could allow for these approaches if mutually agreed upon by the applicants
Mutually.
mutually. So we need you and your neighbor or the share.
Yeah, but then you also need the mutual agreement on the condominium.
we don't say that with a condominium,
For the condominiums, we asked
nor
that.
should we. I think again, if we have a legal basis to assess this, the default is simple because we can easily administer it. It's when it's challenged, and it's not gonna be the person who is getting the benefit who's ever going to even agree to bringing that. So I don't believe that's a good sort of a.
So about the condominiums, we set it up such that the association makes the application. Because if, for instance, Concord Green, there are 230 units. If
Property owner wouldn't have to apply for
Right.
application to come from condominium. And then when we receive that application, it will be reviewed for all of the condominiums because it's from one.
So who's getting the bill? Is it the homeowner association or the?
Each unit is gonna get it based on total area divided by, the number of units. That's the baseline.
because if you change one, it affects the others.
That makes sense. Okay.
I mean, also you have to recognize you're gonna learn by doing this, right? You're gonna do it for a year and things are gonna pop up that you
Yeah.
didn't expect.
That's right.
It's just part of the process of piloting.
And that may be the appeal that then goes to the commission, but it's gonna be the significant exception, not the rule. The rule of this is not every one of these goes to, an abatement request should be vetted by the commission.
Yeah. I would think that however this works out, there'd be a very small number of things that actually have to come to this.
I would
We
imagine.
meet monthly, right? We're not around here.
Yeah,
It's not, we're not administratively easy to deal with
That's right.
if we were the face to the public.
Yeah,
So however it's created, and I do think de minimis is something you should think about, because what is the average bill here?
it's a good question. $100
$100
a year. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So you don't want to spend all kinds of administrative time,
Agreed.
yours or ours,
Agreed.
on $15, right?
Correct.
So however whatever you learn through the process, I would keep that
I think
in mind.
in the process, in your internal process, you have to have something right at the beginning where you test if the abatement really changes
That's right.
the
It's a fee.
category.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that must be the first
Yes,
test.
yes.
Because I could come and say this damn easement, yeah, I'm very worked up on it, and then you do the calculation.
Doesn't change your fee.
Even if you take the easement out, you still pay what the same
Right.
category tier.
Here,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Period.
because you're in those chunks.
Correct.
Right, so you have to,
But
That
that's
must
the
be
idea.
first.
hit it.
So I got
Then
about
you
the
can beat out
granularity
probably
Yes, right.
80% of these
Sort of
things,
thing.
because it actually doesn't make a big difference.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's good input.
all right.
I would maybe narrow down the approaches too, because I would be concerned with like you have 4 neighbors that share driveways in different, and so you come up with an approach, everyone's happy, but then people move out and move in, and
Yeah,
maybe you're
right.
going back to deal with it because you get a really, someone who just sees a completely different perspective. I would just narrow it down so that you can say, we took this approach, this is why. There's not a lot of leeway in that.
There isn't, as far as volume goes, there's not a lot of these out there. I mean,
I
I
know.
actually literally went through
I
the
know,
stormwater to find them. And we're talking about, maybe a couple dozen, maybe.
but that's enough
No,
to cause headaches.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree, and we believe me, we wanna look at how can we easily administer this, but also as fairly as possible. And so, the question is, I guess you're putting out there, divide equally among the benefiting parcels is sort of the default. 2 is divide proportionally by the impervious area. And these are things that we've seen out in the industry.
Right.
This is what's been done, and so that's why we kind of put these options out there.
This may be obvious, but
Yeah.
I really like this point. Will it be a process or a step in the process when you have these appeals or just even?
This is an abatement request, yeah.
An abatement, that you document somewhere in the town system, what happened at 49 Main Street 5 years ago? So when it comes up with a new owner and that question comes up.
In the billing system, that's where we
You'll
have
have
notes and that
access
sort
to
of thing, correct,
information
yes.
saying this has already been
Yeah.
reviewed and the new owner.
The basis is X.
Yeah, and we've already looked at this.
Good
so you
point.
Don't have to reinvent that.
Right, and that's part would be, and we have in our billing system, there's always comment fields and things like that for. This is gonna be a little less complex than what you'd have in water, wastewater, electric, but the tool's there.
All right,
So-
do we have to make a motion?
Yeah, there is a motion.
Anybody excited to do it?
You.
Okay.
You're super.
I, Gretchen Urbach, move that the Public Works Commission formally accept the concept and administrative approaches outlined in the memorandum from the Director of Public Works, Alan H. Park, dated December 4th, 2025, regarding the proposed stormwater utility fee abatement procedure.
Do I have a second?
No, it's not.
Goes on.
Furthermore.
Oh, there's more.
There's more. I didn't have-
I'm not looking at my.
And this is what's important.
Furthermore, the commission confirms that Concord Public Works, CPW, is authorized to use these sanctioned processes and approaches to administratively approve or deny applications for fee abatements. The commission shall maintain its role as a final determination body for property owners aggrieved by the denial by CPW, ensuring that all appeals are heard and decided within the timelines prescribed by the Stormwater Utility Enterprise Fund bylaw.
What are the timelines?
Second,
Just a second. What are the timelines?
Steve, do you recall is it the 30 days, Sammy?
It's about 60 days.
Okay,
Like, I created of the bylaw, 30 days to apply, And then it's 60 days for responding and the
Yeah.
abatement.
That's what we have, 60 days. Okay, thank you.
I second
Okay.
again.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous.
And so in terms of us getting the feedback on how it's going, when?
Yeah, we'll keep you.
Just keep us posted on- yeah.
You'll get, we'll keep you posted.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, dear.
Oh my gosh,
My gosh, if it's like.
40 minutes for director report, that's a new one.
We should really
Let's
dig
blow
into
through
the.
it. Blow through it.
You will run overtime now. All right, I tell you what, a special treat for you tonight.
Yes.
What? Well, no, there's no,
Thanks,
you know,
Sam.
why? No. No. What, we submit the director's report. You've got familiar with our, you know, the division heads there, you know, we have Aaron McClostow, Highway Ground Superintendent is here. Russ Carlstead, our facilities director is here, and Darren LaFollum, Water Sewer Superintendent's here. But we don't have a formal presentation. I was gonna highlight some things, but
Okay.
also they're here if you have questions, okay?
That sounds
So,
good.
first of all, just want to make note that Public Works is active in the holiday tree lighting festivities. Just to let you know, our Highway Grounds group do a lot of, you know, preparation, the staging of it, the protection of it, setting it up, breaking down. It was a very successful event, you know, it's, Aaron, I don't know if you want to offer anything, you know, kind of highlights from your group or.
Pretty good, that was a good summary.
Okay, good summary. I've gone through to tell you what I think you should be aware of.
That's good.
The holiday light recycling
Okay.
program, you know, kind of important this time of year to let people know that we do provide that service as well as tree collection, chipping at the compost site. That's something which you'll hear more about with the news and notice, but it's just sort of timely and kind of seasonal activity that Public Works is engaged in. Gretchen, do you have a question?
Yeah, is it, cause I have a bunch of strings that didn't turn on this year and I was like, geez, some Christmas cakes. And I got a pile of them.
Aaron, do you know the schedule on that?
It'll be, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday after.
After Christmas, so I just get a.
You have to wait.
Put them in my bag.
Yes,
Okay,
but there will be a home at some point.
okay.
Also highlight, the Water Sewer Division has been working on, revisions to the rules and regulations that we had sort of teased, you know, over a year ago, based on staffing changes and transitions and some other needs. Darren, any sort of highlights on that as far as your schedule?
Could have some things by January, was coming January is a safe bet.
January, February, timetable for, the, rules and regulations. They go back to 2003, 4, something like that. So it's been a while. And some of this is driven by the lead service line replacement program. I think one of the triggers, but there's a lot of things that we want to update when we're opening those up.
The contract that was awarded to Weston and Sampson, how big is that? The Climate Action and Resilience Plan update?
You don't have that?
That's right, someone can send it to me.
Yeah,
I'm
we
just curious.
can,
Yeah,
we'll get clarification on that.
thank you.
Yeah. The other is the meter replacement. Again, I mentioned this the other night at the joint meeting with the FinCom Select Board, that the light plan is completed its rollout. Now that they're done, water sewer is starting to, its fairly aggressive program over the next year and a half. We're hoping to replace all the meters. We've started that process, and so there's gonna be, we're getting a lot of response. I think we've used a tool this time around we didn't have when I first tried this 25 years ago, online appointments, and that's working out really well. So that's been really helpful as far as just the convenience for the customer to go online and schedule. Dave, you're wondering, when do I know? We've actually strategically targeted neighborhoods so that we're more efficient when we do the service. And so, you either, if you have a problem meter, we'll target you, we won't wait. But otherwise, we'll sort of include, you know, groupings or batches. And so far, it's also a way to manage it, so we don't just get a rush. but, stay tuned on the meter replacement program.
So
So-
Go ahead.
So we'll hear about it
Yeah, I heard and it's already done.
in your neighborhood.
Worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And they come, this is when they come in and physically.
Yeah, so in essence, to do a replacement meter, we do need to have a scheduled appointment. You do need to be there. Unlike the light plant, our meters
Yeah.
are generally inside
Yeah, sure.
your home or business. So you have to be there, so we have access, but, I think our operations crew replace, I heard like 17 meters in a day, so. But there are a lot of meters.
Yeah.
But this is gonna keep us busy, and we know even, the real challenge is gonna be administratively. There's a lot of information that needs to be sort of brought in, put into our system, transferred from the old meter, so there's more of an administrative burden than we have had historically, so we're kind of, it's what's gonna keep us busy.
How long ago was it? Cause I remember they replaced my meter.
Yeah, it was like yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, it's like, yeah, was it 15 years ago?
It was like yesterday they hired me in Concord, that was 1996. Yeah, so
Is it inside our house or outside?
Inside.
it's inside,
It's in your basement.
yeah,
Most of it.
Oh, yeah.
usually.
My basement to get to it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, Gretchen. Some of this, and if people are listening, or we need to make sure, people understand, we need access to it. And I will tell you some crazy things you learn, including we finished our basement and that meter was ugly.
Yes.
And it's, it's
Covered.
behind that new false wall because, so we need
Oh,
access and we're gonna run into those sorts of, we did that 25, 30 years ago, it'll happen
Yeah.
again, but our regulations require the meters are accessible and not boxed in, so
Mhm.
that may require you get a carpenter or you do your own thing to get us access so we can replace it.
Right. And the data that you're collecting, who gets to see it?
The data.
The data on usage.
The new
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Right now, it is going to be data that we can see,
Mhm.
we meaning the water sewer division. We're working on the system that will allow you to see it without us having to view it.
But nobody outside of you and us.
Unfortunately, not even, you mean sort of outside in the
Right,
universe?
Right, like the
Okay,
government,
all right.
like Massachusetts. right?
Yeah. Darren, do you have any,
Elon Musk.
or Elon Musk?
Anybody. Yeah.
Darren, do you have any comments, thoughts on that? This is the sensitivity of the customer database.
It should be a portal that only we and the user has access to.
It should be.
It should be. It will be, right?
I don't know what the Russians are doing.
No, I know. Okay, but the intent is that
The intent
it's
is-
private data.
Yeah, the intent is it's private, but the intent is, and the challenge is that right now it's just the water sewer division that will have access.
Mhm.
And this can be fairly granular data. And we're hoping that you can
Yeah.
have access so you can better manage
Right.
and understand what's happening or be alerted to a leak or
Yep.
something like that.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
Okay. All right, another Silver Hill Road, that's the area we're doing the water main work. Things have gone according to plan. A good contractor, the neighborhood has been very I'd say accommodating and they understand the nature of the work. The good news is this doesn't impact any other neighborhoods outside the people who are directly affected, so it's been going fairly smoothly with a plan to wrap up construction before Christmas. Darren, that's still on track? Okay,
By the 19th, they're open.
okay.
Before we leave water.
Go ahead, yeah.
What about the PFAS stuff on the valves? Where are we?
Darren, you wanna speak to the PFAS?
On the valve.
We are.
On the projects. We're trying to secure an engineer for PFAS treatment at 2 of our wells that need it to comply with regulations that we're expecting Massachusetts to roll out in the near future to match the federal EPA regulations. So
We believe that the
So what's the timeline you're working on?
I'm expecting a contract performance from the engineer shortly,
Okay,
so soon,
and then they will do work in,
start the design work,
okay,
work with us.
targeting the groundwater wells first,
We're
correct?
getting 2 groundwater wells, because that's a more straightforward path, giving us time to analyze what we're gonna do with NAGAR, which, as you know, is a complicated topic. There's even discussion of the possibility of negotiating possible. We're concerned about the location near Route 2 Rotary.
Yeah.
Because of future complications that could happen as you work with the rotary and a bridge or bypass. So we're looking at all options, including possible land acquisitions.
Is there any
These
change?
all have big financial implications. Where we put it means water mains have to be installed, so multi-million-dollar implications to these decisions, so it's important to get it right the first time.
Is there any change in the PFAS path, given what was happening in Washington? Because I heard something.
Yeah, it's more of, there's always challenges with, you know, the source reduction, you know, trying to look at where they're generated and used. But, you know, regrettably, I've heard recent regulations and policies that allow for its use in agricultural. So it's ever gonna be, you know, it's like the cat in the hat kind of thing. This stuff is spread everywhere. And ultimately, the only, you know, other than the vendors who create this, it's the utilities, water, drinking water, and wastewater universe where they're trying to identify that's where you gotta be the scavenger and clean it up. I know that Manchester, New Hampshire had a NIPDES permit for its wastewater facility from 2019. And Conservation Law Foundation is now appealing this because they're not dealing with the PFAS that was coming in based on a permit that was, you know, a draft permit before PFAS was even really understood. So it's a challenge because the cost becomes to the ratepayer to remove it from the drinking water or even in the waste stream as well. And it's not clean. I can tell you that. It's a real challenge. And the technologies, we are presently supporting Acton Water with temporary water so they can put on a new PFAS treatment facility for their own use. And, you know, they are, you know, challenged with some things that, you know, just, you know, the industry is learning, you know, putting in treatment processes and what's the long-term fate of those is, you know, it's still a little, we're still learning. And so even some of these delays, quite honestly, I'd like to think maybe something will happen that could provide us with a better alternative to treatment. Because the industry's looking aggressively at it because they know it's such a cost. They know the existing technology is not ideal.
So if Acton right now, we are providing water for Acton.
Yeah.
So they pay for it, yeah?
Yes, they do pay for it.
So how much is that per month?
Oh, no, it's really there as a, in the event they need it.
Oh, it's overflow.
It's kind of, yeah, so it's intermittent.
Intermittent.
That's right. And it was for a fixed period of time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're working with them, again, trying to be a good neighbor.
Okay.
But at the same time, we have.
I was already celebrating big dollars coming in.
No, it's not a revenue source. It's more of we're helping them. Someday Acton could help us. Who knows?
But they never will.
Be nice.
Let's see.
I'm still a little upset about Mad Dog Farm.
Yeah, so I want to talk about the Main Street work, the redesign, the intersection of Main, Baker Ave, Cottage. Just to let you know, there's been a lot of discussion. Well, this has been in the works for years. And I will put sort of out there, and Steve, correct if I'm wrong, it started where, you know, funding is always an issue. None of our projects are done with just an open checkbook. Initial probable cost for that intersection rework was about $1.2 million. Number of delays, some challenge we've had trying to get some easements with abutting properties, it's taken more time. The final resolution, moving the utilities and that sort of thing took time. So these were all delays. Now to do that project that has been close to near, you know, finished design is about $1.8 million. That just, it's not completely unexpected, but with that cost, we're very mindful of every dollar above that. We have recently been approached by the cycling advocacy group that says you should really, you know, we have this money, we have, you know, we just voted for this, you know, pedestrian and bike safety. You really should be accommodating that. The challenge is to do that, we'd have to look at a design that was pretty much complete. And under different circumstances, again, we're still fiscal constraints, but there is a little wiggle room because there is some additional funds. We haven't said no, we've taken some concepts, we've brought it to our design engineer to see, is there something we can do to, massage this a little bit? But we gotta be mindful of, we can't, this isn't the time to make those sorts of changes.
Right.
In a normal world, in Concord world, it just happens to be that vote for the roads and safety kind of conflated that interest with, can you not just think about this? I want to tell you, we are thinking about it. There may be something we can do, maybe not, but moving forward, we've been working very closely with planning, with TAC, the Transportation Advisory Commission, with Select Board. Andrea's been involved to say, we have a lot of money, but we have a lot of needs, and we need a better system, more streamlined. This cannot happen in the future. At the 25% design or up to then, that's where you have these conversations, not when you're, 90% or something. So it's kind of a lesson to us of how we should be doing things and why we're retooling our process. So I put it out as just for awareness in case you hear about this. We've heard people talk about the travesty of this, Public Works is doing this major intersection, you're doing it wrong. No, we were doing it right based on the conditions we had. And we are even adapting, but it is a little challenging when the rules change. And in this particular case, it's simply because of this, the pavement and safety pedestrian thing. It's important, but this is an example of how you don't do things, and we're all gonna learn from it. So I just want to put that on the.
In a nutshell, there was plenty of time to bring these things. This was not depending on being funded or not. The design of that intersection, the input around pedestrian, bicycle safety should have brought in much earlier. And I think this is where we have to educate or whatever, the town again and again. People only start paying attention
When they see the trucks.
when they see the trucks, and by then it's too late.
Yeah, it's too
That's
late.
because we don't have a process in place to involve the public early on, and that's where I would like to see the Transportation Advisory Committee play a bigger role with planning and getting people involved earlier, when it's helpful for the public, and it's then helpful for the departments that are trying to implement these projects. There was no place in the process for the public to really be involved. So that's what's lacking. So we need a new process, and it
Tech
hasn't.
knew about it.
What?
Transportation Advisory Committee.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of, I don't want to point any fingers. We're just using it as an example of how we shouldn't be moving forward. And what's most important is we do have a good group, TAC's involved, Public Works will be involved, Select Board. We're gonna identify and define this process that I think we can all agree to is a much better approach. And we do have resources that we can tap that we didn't for this pedestrian safety cycling, which is great, because as you recall, the $25 million for pavement is to make the commitment, Chris, so we can get back to you and say, well, how are we doing? How we're doing on pavement is PCI. It's the benchmark. And we can't spend $25 million and not try and hit our goal that we told people we'd hit.
So that whole intersection was depending on National Grid doing their work. So
there was a combination. It was National Grid, but there's also easement issues.
Yeah, but how's National Grid doing?
Steve, you want to speak to that as far as National Grid and where they're at?
National Grid is replacing some mains, and they're making good progress out there.
So they're in time or are they delayed?
They have, well, there's another aspect to their project on Cottage Ave, and you must have heard of it. They have a regulator station.
Yes, that needs to be a different place now.
Right, and they've tried a few locations. In fact, they had a final design for one location that required an easement from an abutter who denied the easement.
Yeah.
I know they've been talking to someone else and they didn't get the permission. So it's just in a week or so presented to us another location which we think will work. It will not involve any private entity. It will be within the right of way. We have enough right of way. But that's just a portion of the project.
Where would that be?
That'll be at the intersection of Old Bridge Road and Crest. street.
Okay,
But it'll be all within the right of way. And we'll,
so we as a town, we are not dependent on the private owner to enter into easement agreement.
right,
Okay,
as far as the rest of the project, they're moving forward in a timely fashion.
Okay.
good.
And Steve, while you're here, maybe a quick update on the Baker Ave culvert repair?
Yes, so I do maybe remember the culvert has failed and we've started the construction. It's a couple weeks into it. They've excavated the location of the failure so they can construct a large concrete vault. They have found though, there are some deteriorated pipes coming from the Comfort Green property. It's very likely that these deteriorated pipes are owned by Comfort Green, so we're doing that research. We are talking to them about our discovery and figuring out how to address what's deteriorated pipes.
The opportunity for Concord Green is this is infrastructure that's failing on their property. I guess the good news, bad news is we're doing work out there, so they may be able to leapfrog or work with us to get work that would have, it could have been catastrophic failure without this awareness. So just interesting. These are the things you run into with obviously, every design, every plan, it's just that until you start the construction, you start seeing what's in there. And that's just the nature of the universe we live in.
Other than that, traffic management during construction is being done by police. When they're not there, we set up a temporary signal system. So that you go through there, you'll see where you will have to, operate your vehicle based on traffic lights, temporary lights.
All right, and then the only other thing I thought was kind of important and significant notice is the Harvey Wheeler Community Center. Russ, do you want to just give the commission a quick, heads up on that work? Because it's just high visibility. You're in the middle of it. Russ has been sort of working with a contractor on day to day. This is Russ Carlstead.
There's been many areas in failure over there on the entrances on the sides there down to Main Street. So for years it was a process to try to repair that and kept getting stalled for one reason or another. So we came in and Steve and I pushed it forward. And we actually expanded the scope to include the entrance because the entrance was pretty bad. So the engineers went back and redesigned it to do the entry. They upgraded the project with a nice little stone wall in the front. Anyone's been over there to see, that's already installed. And then we actually had them add a ramp to connect the parking lot to Main Street. So we have an ADA accessible pathway down.
Okay.
Weather's coming in now. So we're gonna get the entrance finished and the front sidewalk and ramp. And then we'll probably postpone the rest of it till spring, see how the weather goes. But we just keep eyes on the job. For example, they had installed the concrete stairs to the basement. And I went over and I didn't approve them. I made them rip them out. And they ripped out the concrete stairs and now they gotta redo the whole thing. But you gotta keep your eyes on everybody. So
Wow.
that's typical in a day-to-day work. So that project's gonna be, it'll look nice. We're gonna have that entrance back up in about 2 weeks, maybe. And then our traffic nightmare over there will be finished.
It also speaks to just the challenge of budgets, or you plan a certain amount of allowance. When we talk about facilities budget, this is part of what we're looking for and what's covered with our asks. And it's kind of like, you never know what you're gonna have, so you have to give a probable cost estimate.
Yeah, we came in at 539,000 on this. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Engineering was a little over 100,000. The total 640,000 getting the ground.
Mm-hmm.
We knew there's some existing bad conditions on the building, so we had a couple of change orders to fix some of the building face and had to take some bricks out, put some granite in, fix up some holes and things like that. So now we're at about close to 600 on the flat work. And we expect it to go up a little bit more. They may have a couple of things they found as we go forward. But that's why we held the capital for so long, the newest project was gonna cost a fair amount of money. And when things are buried in the ground, we just don't know.
Where we really try to do the needs, not the, you know, we're in a need to, not a nice to mode, and the challenge with facilities, everybody has you know, an interest. But, you know, whether you're reconfiguring an office space or, you know, painting walls or doing something, you just have to make sure the stuff like that, which really can eat up the funds, you know, you never know what you're gonna have, so.
So talking about capital budget,
Sure.
there was the big discussion.
Try
earlier in the
meeting,
week.
yeah.
Is there anything out of the meeting of select board and FinCom on the capital budget that would materially impact us, some cuts or anything?
Yeah, so there was a meeting with select board, FinCom, and what am I missing? Was it?
Was it the
School
schools?
board. And schools, thank you, schools. And yeah, there's an overarching interest of trying to keep, you know, the budget contained. I think they're looking at 2.5% increase, you know, in the operating budgets as guidance. Presently, the town's at about 2.93, something like that, or close to it. As far as we look at budgets, as far as operating versus the capital, Sven, the night before was the capital discussion. And the challenge we have is, you know, with the stormwater, we got to be very careful that we don't have a lot of excess money with even, you know, the rates that we set. There's some allowance for repairs, some modest replacements of things as we do our roads program and some, you know, sort of, you know, targeted stormwater improvements, but nothing along the lines of a culvert replacement or anything like that. I think, Steve, you would put in a request for more money in the event, you know, we need it. That was, I don't think, supported at this point. With the roads program, we clarified that, you know, our usual ask of whether it was 2.5, 3 million is not there. So, you know, we know the borrowing is to cover the pavement management. Steve, what else would you, because mostly in the engineering universe, it was potentially compromised.
Right. So what we asked for, not recommended by the town office, the manager's office. Parking lots, we applied for money for this campus, the parking lot is deteriorating, that wasn't moved forward. We asked for more money for traffic signals. We identified some signals that needed upgraded. You can get in money for that either. Also, in terms of pedestrian needs, even the big borrowing does give us $500,000 per year for the next 5 years. But that's we've discussed, that money will go towards safety, road safety improvement projects, not necessarily replacing large portions of sidewalks that we know are in poor condition. So we did put in a conditional request to have those, and that was not informed either. But what we did get, we got smaller amounts under tier 1 for your annual striping, annual guardrail. We got some money put to support the asset management system. And there's the landfill monitoring.
Landfill monitoring. However, we're also in discussion on, and Chris, you'll appreciate, we also have a new CFO, and we're trying to work with the finance group and town manager to truly identify what's year-to-year operating versus capital, and that discussion's going on. It's a relatively new team, but that is on the forefront of trying. The engineering operating budget is tiny.
Yeah.
But they have certain responsibilities that have historically been pushed into a capital.
Yeah.
And we're trying to at least identify that and
Fix it.
hopefully.
You should fix it. You
Well,
should really tell them.
We will, we
Tell them I
provide
said
it.
so. They need to fix it. I don't want operating stuff in my capital.
Yeah, but
budget.
we have to be super transparent to that in the end, you're not caught in this 2.5% discussion when you move some from capital to operating. And then you're operating.
Correct, so you gotta.
Higher than-
That's
But
right.
it's a correction.
But we're all trying to do
Everything's in
that,
one bucket.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, this is those sorts of things that we're at the table of to
Yeah.
try and, you know, advocate for.
Well, assuming 2.5% increase on operating budget. With that, so you can make that with the existing staff, or do you fear any issues there?
It's not such this staff so much as some of the service that, you know, is
Okay.
expected.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, one thing that came out of it, and there was some questions, and this is a good conversation, that you should be aware. We need to do a better job explaining where we've done things to be more efficient. And it's a legitimate ask.
Mhm.
And I think historically, we just assume, well, we've done that and we move on. I think it's our job to start identifying some of these things that have been done to prevent the escalation. But, you know, and I think there's a conversation and where it's a different environment and we're sort of on notice that, you know, we really want to look at these things and, you know, be able to help people understand what it is we're doing, why we're doing it. And that came out kind of loud and clear too. So we're in that mode of trying to make sure that we start creating the response when they question, well, what have you done? Not just where are you going, but we've done a lot of things to be more efficient. We just gotta, you know, the $400,000 for our heavy equipment for, you know, our fleet. Aaron, you know, can maybe speak to, we've kind of, in the last 5 years, we've changed our model of kind of equipment for the swap loaders. They're multi-purpose
Mhm.
now for the truck. It's not just as, you know, for hauling material. It can also be used as a sander or something else. And it just, you change the body and you get that use. Those are things to be more efficient.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's in-house. We don't think about
Yeah.
it, but we need to start capturing that. That's clear to me.
Yeah. At the select board, they also have something I see that Carrie is now presenting on projects. She has a little schedule. I assume you.
Yeah,
you-
that's
you
right.
had-
That's right.
I
Yeah.
think that would be a good thing to bring here as well, since most of it is yours. Am I right?
And it's incomplete. We haven't put everything in.
I
You're
know,
right.
I know,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think it would be a good thing for this, for the commission to sort
Yeah.
of see is what are the major projects, and it's a nice schedule.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It shows you what's
Yeah.
going on. I noticed that you have awarded the contract for your engineering consultant for the roads. Who is that? And again, how much money are they gonna get for it? Do you-
Steve, wanna fill us in?
So
This is for the roads
the 5-year-
design.
The design, yeah.
road safety or pavement, because you have.
Pavement. It's a 5-year road resurfacing fund, which is the pavement.
So the pavement, that will be IMEG, IMEG.
Uh-huh. And what's the contract for?
Contract, 725,000,
325?
120.
125.
Okay, thank you.
Alan, Paul has his hand raised.
Sure. Okay, do we wanna take a question from Paul?
Sure.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have to leave in a couple of minutes, so a couple of questions. On the budgeting, I think that went pretty smoothly. I think Kerry is not done with the budgeting. She's at 2.95 and she's looking at other things, so I'm not sure will she end up where she'll end up. That's level head count. They're the same FTEs year over year. There's some you know, there's an evening out there. One of the biggest questions during the tri-board meeting came from on capital, long-term capital. I think the long-term capital planning is going to need some attention by everybody because there are going to be some long-term capital needs as Mr. Viva knows pretty well from the long land use planning. And those have kind of dropped out of the plan, and we have to start putting those in the plan in the out years. In the short term, there wasn't a lot of discussion on tier 2 capital. The capital is well within the financial policy guidelines. There are some specific questions on specific items, but you can look at the recordings for that. I did want to mention on this meeting, I just want to thank you and commend you for the very clear discussion on the amenities building. You know, the process of incorporating Department of Health, Title V, NPDES limits, maximum discharge. It was all very clear in the discussion, so I think the public should listen to this recording for how the deliver, and then the professional judgment that you put on top of that. I think was really good. So I think it was really clear. And the last thing on the stormwater abatements, I wish you luck. I want to back up what Christine said about transactional energy and transactional costs. I think certainly you're gonna have to work that out over time, but I can see a lot of energy putting in for small returns. But I think through the screening process, you're gonna learn when to move and when not. But that's it's a very fair process, but it seems to involve a lot of steps, and I'm not sure that the staff, you have a lot of staff to do that as good as your staff are. So anyway, thank you. Great meeting.
Thanks,
Okay,
Paul.
thank you.
Thank you.
I think on the stormwater, I think you survived the new garbage toters and all the root crews that was done generated by that.
Yes, and that's right. Thank you, Sven. And a reminder that we are now on track. We're sort of through the wave of putting the fees for the trash recycling on the monthly utility bill. There has been required, because it was new, some adjustments. I know Justine St. John, our staff has put a lot of effort into try and make the course corrections, but once established, I think we're gonna see a much more streamlined, easier to understand and implement, program. And again, I think the actual service itself is greatly improved. Another thing we haven't really focused on is the savings by being creative and working through this process with the support of the commission. But, even more important, staff. And there was a cost. This is not an easy thing to do. And this is to the credit of staff being willing to go through this, because it is challenging. And, they don't get a bonus because it worked.
Yeah, but it's more efficient now to have it monthly on the bill than this half year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And selling extra stickers,
All that,
all
yes.
of that.
Yeah.
It's just-
Yeah, we finally brought it to the next, generation.
Yeah, Justine St. John. Work on
Can
it.
can I make a motion?
Yes.
I, David DeLong, hereby make a motion to adjourn this meeting.